Yeah, yes.
Okay. And so again, man, I just want to say thanks to both of you brothers for willing to join me here um on the Prison to Promise podcast. I'll play this interview with hopes that other formerly incarcerated people will hear it, or people who have been impacted by the criminal legal system somehow, be they victims or victim advocates or anyone who has been touched by the system. So the whole purpose of this conversation is to spread motivation, inspiration, and joy and hope, man, for
Yes.
people who've been impacted by the system. And so,
I do appreciate it. Really appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
absolutely. And so, man, we may have to make this a two-part session. I'm not sure, but
Okay.
let's just jump right in. And I'm just going to ask if you brothers can introduce yourself briefly to the listeners.
Yeah. You want to go first, Travis?
Yes, my name is Travis Boone. I'm from a small town called Murfreesboro, North Carolina. And just growing up, man, I got involved with drugs and the gang life, and it led me on a road to prison. I was in and out of jail for a couple of years, but it was through the last time when I did a stretch of 9.5 years that I was able to find peace and hope. I realized, a lot of my life, it's almost like a game. I was brainwashed, and I allowed it to happen. And because it's a lot of choices I made, for myself that got me in the position I was in. But and then it's like you're going down a hill and you can't stop. When I wanted to change, I couldn't change. But it was at the time in the 9.5 years that I did that I was able to sit down. And I'm just fortunate didn't lose my life out there. And I was able to sit down. And I met this young man, Andre Smith, and he was volunteering in prison. So, going through his classes, meditations, I was able to find a sense of purpose, because for me, I wanted to change the world, but I realized I had to change myself before I changed the world. Changing myself is what changed the world. So
Right.
it was a long process, man, and it was hard fought. That's the thing about it. Like when you think a certain way and you've been all your life thinking this way, it's not easy, but it is possible.
Mhm.
And that's the thing about it, man, is just having hope and faith and continuing to want to change, and
Yeah.
yeah,
And man, just thanks for sharing that. That hope and faith is a big piece. But
yes,
what came to my mind too, as you were talking about, wanting to change, but it's so difficult, is I think about the paths that I tend to hike when I go for hikes with my family
yeah,
um, in the forest. And those paths are there because people and animals have continued to travel those paths. So they're etched into the forest, and hardly nothing grows on those paths
that's
because
right.
it used to being traveled. And I think about the neural pathways in our brain when we have those types of thoughts continually, they bore almost like a trench in our brain where nothing else
Yeah,
happens but that direction of thought because that's how we've been traveling so far.
Yeah.
yes,
Yes.
correct.
The path less traveled, right?
Yes,
Uh,
That's
sir.
it.
yeah, that's the most difficult one, but
Yeah.
that's the one that we have to travel if we want to change it, if we want to be better human beings.
Mm.
Uh,
Yes,
that's the travel we have. That's the path that we have to travel.
Yeah.
It is
correct.
difficult.
Yeah. Critical for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, Brother Andre, before we get into the depths of it, if maybe you can introduce yourself, if you would, and maybe just give a little insight into how you ended up working with people in prison.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very interesting. This is at a very early age. I kind of knew this was my direction. Sometimes you get this clear, like this is what you're going to do in life. I remember my mom; she would always have these books laying around, right? Uh, and she was a devout Christian and stuff like that. And she always had these books really trying to reach me. And one of them was I can't remember the author right now, and it's still in publication. It's called The Cross and the Switchblade.
Mm-hmm.
And right then I read that book. Some books just speak to you, right? And that book just spoke to me. I must have been maybe 10 or 11 years old, but I knew then that was going to be my path.
I remember
I
that.
did, yeah, I did everything else, everything I could not to go that route. Yeah. So I did a lot of the stuff that Travis has done. Wasn't my karma to be in prison. Uh, and so therefore I avoided that. But I after I became Buddhist, um, uh, I started really becoming interested in this. My teacher, Venerable Rabina Corton, uh, she started the Liberation Prison Project in Australia, and she asked if I if I would like to do that, and she thought I would be good at doing that, and so I told her yes, and so I started doing that work. Been about 20 years now. I met my man Travis here, uh,
Yes.
and and you know, and he was just like really caught. Not by me, you know, I'm just a guy, right? But it was the teachings.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah.
teachings really, because I think for the first time he saw hope that
Mm-hmm.
he could change.
Yeah.
The first time, perhaps he saw that. I'm not sure I'm speaking for you now, Travis, but I think perhaps the first time, in his first time in his life, maybe he saw that, yeah, uh, uh, I am, I am good.
Mm-hmm.
I've done bad things, but I am innately good, and I want to reach for that, and that's what I try to do in the prison. I'm trying to get the guys to realize that you are not what you have done,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what you have done is not the last thing you will ever do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we can always change things around if we wish to, if we want to.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard work.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's the road less traveled, as you were said. It's
Yeah.
hard work, but it can be done. And I promise them, and I've proven this to Travis, I will be with you every step of the way, inside and outside, if you'd like me to.
Mm-hmm.
And that is my commitment to Travis and all those that I work with, uh, and um, and I will continue to make that commitment. I am from Raleigh, North Carolina. I was born and raised here in Raleigh. I grew up in the '50s. I'm 72 years old. Just had a birthday a couple of weeks ago. You know,
Congratulations.
thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I'm doing my purpose. I'm living my purpose in life. This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And Travis is living his purpose, and Craig, you're living your purpose too, man. I checked up on you. I am so honored to meet you, and so respectful for what you're doing for the guys in prison. Stuff
Thank
like
you,
that.
brother. I'm so humbled to hear that from you. You know,
Mm.
big brother, whenever a big brother give me big ups, it just humbles me, man. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
something both you and Travis mentioned, you dropped that word hope. You
Mm.
think about the work that we do, our lives that we do, and, you know, living out our purpose. We're peddling hope instead of dope, you know, and our hope
Mm.
becomes the dope, you know,
Mm.
if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
And so you and Travis met behind the wall or behind the fence inside the
right.
penitentiary while you were
Correct.
classes
Mm.
and Travis was incarcerated.
Yes.
Yeah. Travis, if you could maybe talk about what was it that allowed you to hear coming through Andre this direction of hope, or how did you find, you know, what you were looking for by sitting in the classes with Andre? And before you answer that, I'd just like to also acknowledge, you know, Andre said, man, I'm just basically a vessel. I'm a guide, you
Yeah.
know, and I'm just bringing the message. I'm channeling the message, but I'm not the message. I'm not the doer. So I just wanted
Yeah.
to share that. But yeah, what let you know that, okay, this might be the way for me?
Okay. Well, my background comes from Christian, views, and I grew up like dedicated going to church. So all that was installed in me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I so even through, the process of being in the streets and the drugs, it always brought me back to that same place to where I was hurting or hurting people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing I did realize because, in school, I was very smart. I was AB all the way through school, but I always had this inquisitive mind to just go out. I had a family that lived in the projects, and I was attracted more to that lifestyle than my own
Mm-hmm.
because it seems to me that they had freedom. But see, I didn't know what true freedom was. So I would say as a child, I just wanted to be free. And looking over there from where I grew up at, I thought that was freedom, and that's what I chased.
Mm-hmm.
So through that process, and it got me, in the trouble I did is when I met Andre. I just wanted to change. You know what I'm saying? I realized that I lost a lot of opportunities in my life because I had a promising football career too. In high school, I was a high school athlete that a lot of people knew from counties. I was very good, had colleges looking at me. So I took a lot of things like that for granted. And, just like a child, I thought I knew everything. But to fast forward, when I met Andre, I think I was like 5 years in. So through that process, that's when I started. At the beginning of my bid, I started taking like college courses, and I always was curious about psychology.
Yeah.
And taking courses in psychology, I found out about the mind and how the mind is controlled based on your environment and stuff like that. And then I realized that my decisions were based on my environment and the things that I chose. So, and then one thing about religion for to me is I realized that, and I always use this analogy, like if you was to take a Muslim, you was to take a Christian, and you was to take a Buddhist, and you strip them away of their labels, and you just allow them to practice their
So true.
spiritual principles, they will all do the same thing. So when I realized and seen that in my mind, I kind of realized that my Christian views for me had me in a box.
Mm.
So that's when I started thinking outside the box. And to me, that's when I was able to grow. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So once I was able to grow, and I learned that to me is like religion is nothing but a language. So I started studying Islam. I started studying other religions, and I was able to talk to other brothers in their language
Mm-hmm.
and got along with a lot of people. And Andre, he was part of what Universal Love. We started at Nash
Hmm.
Community. I mean Nash Correction,
Right.
called Universal Love, where we had a lot of people from different faiths coming together and pray together. So that was a good experience for me because we all felt accepted and loved, and in an environment where it tells you different. You know what I'm saying? You have guards that treat you like you're really a nobody or you're under them.
Mm-hmm.
So people like Andre and the other volunteers that came in, they reinstilled that we was loved and that we was able to do something with our life even though we was in the situation that we was in.
Yeah.
So once I started doing the meditation, it became effective to me, my mind, and I was able to slow my train of thought down. And you know, just through the process, it takes time though. But even now, with some of the tools that they gave us back then, I'm able to utilize it in life today. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I took it as a way of life, not just something that you use a certain time.
Right.
For me, it's a way of life.
It's not just a tool you pull out your bag.
That's right. It's a way of
It's who
it's a
you
way of
are.
life.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
And you said it just now, and Andre said it. It takes time. And I think
Hmm.
anything worthwhile, particularly, like fruit, when fruit grows off vines and trees, it takes time. There's a season for it to get to the point where you need to pull it off the vine or fall off, and that's when it's ready to eat. And
That's
so,
a great analogy, Craig. Uh, in Buddhism and maybe in other faiths too, I'm not quite sure, we always talk about our potential, right?
mhm,
We have the potential to become
mm,
more than we are,
mm,
you know. And so it's like, in fact, Gandhi said, "We are already that which we seek," you
mm,
know. And so it's all inside of us, right? I suppose I joke with the guys in prison, say it's an inside job, you know, the work that we're doing
yeah,
because it's all inside of us.
so,
And so that analogy, we use an analogy of the acorn.
mhm,
The acorn has within it the potential to become a magnificent, beautiful, majestic oak tree,
mm,
right? But if it's not getting the nourishment, it's not getting the proper nourishment, not getting what it needs in order to become that, it never will.
yeah,
So I feel like that what I do and others who work in the prisons do with this work is that we're helping the guys become aware of that acorn, that potential, that seed,
yeah,
and then trying to give them,
mhm,
the nourishment that they need.
yes, sir.
And so what we do with the nourishment is methods, is
Mhm,
tools. What
mhm,
we can use, and as Travis said, it becomes a way of life, a way of being. It becomes who we are. So you practice compassion. You begin to live your life compassionately.
yeah,
You practice forgiveness. You begin to live your life uh, 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 forgiving others.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
First, we have to have compassion and forgiveness for ourselves.
It all starts with us, right?
Yeah, I think that's the hardest work that I do, to
Mhm,
get guys to see that you are innately good. You have to know this,
yeah,
because if you don't know this, you're not going to really put the effort in to try to realize that,
mhm,
and so I think like Travis, uh, he was able to actually see I
yeah.
am innately good, and then he began to that gave him hope to be able to change,
And I
and he
would
was
argue that sometimes we don't realize that we're innately good because of all of the ish, so to speak, that life has piled on us, the trauma, laws,
right.
needs, the wants,
Yeah,
and all the other stuff that follows many of us who find ourselves in
you're
prison.
absolutely right. We're told so many times that we aren't good, and then our actions kind of like prove that to us that we aren't good.
Yeah, yeah,
I did this thing. A good person would never do this thing,
yeah.
and so therefore, and then we begin to believe,
Mhm,
yeah, the lies that we're told that we aren't good,
mhm.
you know,
Or that brainwashing that Travis talked about.
That's right.
the brainwashing that travels. That's what we all go
So
through.
resonated with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unlike Travis, I wasn't very good in school.
Mhm,
Not that I didn't have the potential to be good in school. I had so much going on in my life that I couldn't handle it. My father was an alcoholic. My mom, and all this. My mom was just raising four kids by herself, basically. I had all this stress and stuff like that. Then I found out much later when I entered university that I had that I had ADD. I had
mhm.
no idea. People back in those days didn't know anything about ADD.
Right.
So there's so many young brothers and sisters who and and they just assumed to be a problem,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
They have anger issues. Well, they have anger because they can't seem to get this, and they want to get it so badly.
Yeah.
So I started working. My job was after I got out of college and so forth. In university, I decided uh, uh, to teach GED
Mhm.
students like myself who dropped out, but I know that they have the potential to do well,
Yeah.
and so that's what I did until I retired from that. So it's like we got to know what our potential is. We got to know. Someone's got to tell us,
Mhm.
because we don't see it. Everybody else is telling us, no, we can't do it. You're no, you're dumb. No, you're retarded. No,
Yeah.
you're this. You know,
Or sometimes we don't know our potential because we're busy watching other people manifest theirs and we're trying to, emulate them and be like them instead of staying in our lane, so to speak.
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
One of the
yeah.
things, and you'll find me using analogies all the time, but
I
one of
like
the
them.
things again I think about is like I'm an avid cyclist, and when we get done talking, I'm going to be out on my cycle for a couple of miles. But
Yeah.
I'm traveling maybe 12, 14 miles an hour while I'm riding my bike, but then there's people that come zipping past me at 18 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour. And I'm like,
Yeah,
damn,
right.
going. But then I
Yeah,
have to remind myself that's their ride. It ain't mine.
good stuff. Yeah,
Stay
absolutely.
in my lane. Let me continue to pedal how I pedal to get to where I'm going.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
In Buddhism, we have this notion of infinite life,
Yeah.
right? And it would mean life is continuous. Yeah,
Mhm.
from one lifetime to the next lifetime to the next lifetime. I think about that a lot, and I realize that and Robert Thurman he wrote a book entitled Infinite Life, and he
Mhm.
said in the book that if you have infinite life, there's no rush, right? Because you have infinite life,
Yeah.
you're going to get there. So
Yeah.
take your time, enjoy the journey,
Yeah.
enjoy the experience, learn everything you can in this lifetime, right? Everything you can. You will carry that with you into the next lifetime.
Yeah.
And I think similarly, Christianity and Islam probably very similar because they believe in infinite life, but they call it heaven, right? Or they call it hell.
Right.
And so we want to do everything we can if we're Christian or if we're Muslim or whatever to go to paradise, to go to heaven, right? This is what we want.
Right.
That requires us doing something here in the now.
That's right.
Yeah, we
That's right.
can't wait until we die to say I'm going to get there.
That's right. Because all we have is now.
Yeah, that's
that's
all
right.
we got.
That's all we have.
That's right.
I'm loving this conversation. And Travis, just jump in if something hits you, man, because
Oh
we're just
yeah, I will.
conversation,
Okay.
you know. But there's some powerful things that have been exchanged, some powerful narratives that we've exchanged so far. At least I think.
Mm,
But if I could, dive a little deeper, because Andre,
mm,
it's known that you lost your son,
mm.
and many people having lost a child the way that you lost your child would be bitter
Mm.
and they would be angry. And the last thing they want to do is go to somebody's penitentiary and help people find their potential.
Yeah, yeah, you would think, right?
Yeah. Can you talk about what it is in you that want to help you save other men, other young people from
Mm.
similar fates as the person who took your
Yeah,
child from you?
I don't think there's probably uh, I don't know, no tragedy that's as powerfully as powerful and devastating as losing a loved one, especially a child, and a spouse. I think, yeah, we lose our mothers and stuff like that.
Yeah. I got two black sons, and I think about it
Yeah,
all the time.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so, yeah, 2007, my son was murdered. He was in a nightclub. He was only 20 years old, and he was just dancing, right? And he didn't drink. He just went to clubs just because he liked to dance and he liked to and he liked to be with friends and meet people. This guy on the floor had a beer, and as I understand it, Daniel bumped into him when he was dancing, and the beer spilt on him, and the guy at that point uh, they had exchange, and and the bouncer could see something was going on over there, and then, so the guy walked away really quick and asked Daniel if everything. Daniel said, "Yeah, everything's okay, no problem. I just whatever he said, I'm not quite sure." Uh, when the club closed, as it was closing, Daniel went to the bathroom to relieve himself. And the guy came in, stabbed him to death several times, just stabbed him several times, And I was interviewed by a WRAL interviewer, and I was reluctant to do that because there's so much of this stuff, black on black crime, and I didn't want my son to become just another statistic, just another uh, you know story in the news, and she assured me, I promise you I'll be respectful and stuff like that, and she was. uh and she asked me what were my feelings about the guy. And right away, without thought, I said, I forgive him and I have compassion for him, without thought. And she was floored by that. And apparently a lot of people were floored by that. I didn't think it was a big thing, it's just, and so, but then I started getting uh, a lot of a lot of people writing me and wanting to find out and wanting me to do these interviews and this kind of stuff about and work in these organizations. And that's what got me started. So my feeling, the way that I feel about it is that, and also I must say too, it's because people like Travis, the guys that I work with in prison, really enabled me to be able to reach that place.
Mhm.
Because when I work with these guys in prison, I find that they're human beings. They've
Absolutely.
made mistakes and they feel regret. They feel remorse for what they've done. And if they could do anything to do it differently, they would. And I figure this young man that murdered my son, he probably feels the same way. He may not admit it right now, but he probably feels the same way. And so, and so I was able to forgive him and have compassion. That hasn't changed. I still have it for him, and I always will.
Yeah.
I discovered that forgiveness is really not so much for the perpetrator. Forgiveness is for ourselves,
Yeah.
right? So another way to say forgiveness is to let go, right? So I forgive, I let go, I let go not of what you've done, but I let go of the hurt, the pain, and the anguish that I feel.
Wow.
I let go of any anger that I feel because I realize these things are not helpful to me. They're not gonna bring me closure.
Right.
They're not gonna enable me to find happiness. And that's what I really wanted to. I wanted to come back to that place where I was happy and stuff. Working with these guys like Travis brought me happiness.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I went back almost right away. Uh, uh, and and these guys in prison, I don't know if you were there then, Travis. Were you there in 2007?
Yes, I was, and I will wait let you finish, but I want to share something after you said it too.
Okay. These
Yeah.
guys, they never knew my son. They actually had a memorial for my son. I was so moved. They didn't even know my son. They planted a tree in honor of my son, and so forth. So it's like that really, yeah. I said this is my path. This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Thank you for sharing that, brother.
Yeah.
That just moved me on so many levels.
Yeah.
Your level of loss, your level of compassion, me imagining myself in your situation, and then me also wanting to be like you in that regard, being able to have that type of compassion, forgiveness, and heart. And that's something I don't know if I have, but that's what I want. And so the tears are not necessarily sadness either.
Yeah.
Wet eyes is also because of the beauty of yourself. You are a beautiful brother, man.
Oh, thank you
Sharing
so
this
much.
piece
Thank you.
of you, man.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm moved by beauty,
Yeah.
So just thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, like, when Andre's son got killed, it's like I really watched him then because I remember when we found out, I thought that myself, like, is he gonna look different at us?
Yeah.
And the way that he came back, and the things that he shared with us made us grow more together, and I give him the utmost respect. He might not. I'm pretty sure you remember. You remember, Andre, when you shared us about the cornbread.
Oh
That's what
yeah.
you shared. You shared with us about the cornbread right after your son got killed.
Yeah.
And when he shared this with me, and I'm gonna let him tell you the story about the cornbread.
Oh, you talking about the
But
biscuit?
yeah, the biscuit.
Yeah.
But it was in that moment I knew that what he was doing was real
Mm.
because and I knew for me that I couldn't think or believe in the way that he was believing at the time, but I did want to get there because I knew for me, I had a lot of anger and resentment and bitterness in me from my childhood, from my father not being there, for so many things that Black men go through, even with the systematic racism and stuff like that. And I realized that I got trapped. And we
Hmm.
talked about the trap in one of your segments in class on the trap. And I remember the trap. It had a picture, it was a worksheet. And what it said is just take the trap apart piece by piece. That's how you defeat the trap. I
Hmm.
never forget that. And so at that moment, I realized that it was going to be a journey, but it was possible, and later on in 2020, not knowing that I would lose my son to
Hmm.
gang violence, and just thinking on Andre from there and his support, it helped me get through that. Even though we had a long distance relationship, but it's just the pain, and sometimes, it comes and goes. But being able to allow and understand that I'm right in the place where the universe want me to be,
Hmm.
and it's nothing I could have done. It happened, and just being able to be content with that. Just watching Andre, go through that helped me go through mine too, and I just want to share that too.
Oh, I appreciate that so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I didn't know whether I could do it before I lost my son. I've always taught compassion and forgiveness. That's Buddhism,
Yeah.
forgiveness and compassion, and kindness and all this kind of stuff. Even to those who harm you.
Yeah.
Jesus taught the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Forgive your enemy, love your enemy, and this
Jesus
and
was a
that.
Buddhist.
Yeah, but I didn't know I could do that. I remember there was once, I'm not sure if it was at Nash or it might have been in Caledonia, another prison where I was preaching. I can't remember, but a guy asked me as I was talking about forgiveness and compassion. He said, "Are you telling me that if someone comes into my home, kills my wife, my child, I'm supposed to forgive them?" And I said, "Yes, that's what I'm saying." I said, to be honest, I don't know if I can do it, but I know I want to. I
Hmm.
aspire to be that way. I
Yeah.
know that there are those ahead of me
Hmm.
who have done this. The
Yeah.
Buddha, Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., Jesus Christ, and so I know that because others have done it, then it is possible for me to do it too. And so then I lost my son, and then there it was, and it came.
Wow.
I think another thing about this too, and I'm gonna get into the biscuit. Another thing about this too is that in order for us to develop these qualities, we already have them; they're there. But in order for us to develop these, we have to practice, 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 practice. If you want to be a great musician, you have to practice. If you want to play like Chopin, you have to practice, right? Yeah, so if you want to play a horn like Satchmo, you got to practice. You want to shoot ball like
Everything.
Mike, you gotta or
Even
LeBron,
if
yeah,
you're
you gotta learn how
naturally
to
gifted
practice.
at it. Even if you're naturally gifted at it, you got to still practice.
Yes, right. And you may not be able to do it as well as these other guys, but you do it as well as you can.
Right. Bam, bam,
Yeah,
bam. As
yeah,
well as you can.
as
That's
well
right.
as you can,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
And so that's what I did. My teacher said that uh, for me to get there so quickly, it must have been due to practice in past lives, and so then when the time came, it was there because I've been practicing, practicing, practicing. So I keep that in mind because again, whatever we do in this lifetime, whatever we do, this present moment will determine our future.
Yeah,
Right.
man.
So I keep that in mind. If my past allowed me to be able to do this, then what I'm doing right now will enable me to do something even more, some as
Future.
well.
Yeah.
The
You
biscuit. Uh, do
wait,
we have time for the biscuit?
well, we got 4 minutes. But
Okay, we don't have time for the biscuit. We'll get to the
what
biscuit
I've
when we're
done
done.
is I've sent you a link. I sent each of you another link if you want to jump back on. And if we can't
Okay.
jump back on today, we can find another time to jump back on next week, and then we can make one extended episode of this conversation.
Yeah. What can you do, Travis?
Yeah, I can jump back in.
I could jump back in. Yeah.
Great, great, great. And
All
I
right.
was going to jump in too. But one thing real quick that you said something about practicing, being the best that you can be. The Mighty Most Def, I'm a hip hopper by
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mighty Most Def. Now he's Yasin Bey, but he said in one of his songs, he said, I ain't a perfect man. I'm just trying to do the best that I can with what it is I have.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
it, man. That's it.
So again, just brings these things back to mind, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then maybe when we get to the next episode, the next segment, we'll have more time. You could talk about the biscuit. And so
Okay.
before we close off this segment, I just wanted to touch on something Travis said about, being young, having all this lifetime of anger, resentment, and again, that just so much resonated with me and my story. And what I found is that is reflective or is echo of the stories of many other people that I've worked with who've been incarcerated. We come to that space with a lot of pain, a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, a lot of fear, a lot of trauma. And I know for me, I acted out so as not to become victimized again, because I had been victimized as a young person, not realizing that, hurt people hurt people. It's corny.
That's right.
It's real.
That's right. Yeah. 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 What's his name in South Africa? He just passed away.
Mandela.
Yeah,
Mandela.
not Mandela, but
Toot. What is?
why can't I think of his name now?
Hmm.
Anyway, in his book, it'll come to me later. His book of forgiveness, he said, "This is what it is." Yeah, pretty much as you said it. You hurt people. This becomes the pattern, right?
Yeah,
But the point that he was making is that there is context to what we do. People typically just see the crime.
that's right.
They see the action and they assume that that's all there is to it. But there's context, and we need to know what that context is.
And we don't care about the context, it seems. We just want to identify or land on the worst possible act the person did. And one of the things that really burns me up is how we, as a society, identify those of us who've been to prison as felons, as convicts,
Yes.
As inmates. And so we get boiled down to the lowest common denominator of our experience versus, I'm also a father,
That's right. Yeah.
Neighbor, and all these other good things.
Yeah. We are so much more than what people see on the surface.
Absolutely.
We always have that adage, right? Don't judge a book by its cover, but we do it all the time.
This is about to cut off.
Okay.
So let's sign out and sign back in.
Okay. Sounds good. All right.
Let's jump back in on we always judge the book by its cover.
Okay. All right. Yes. All right. Let's see. How do I get out of here?
Just hit end. It should be in the bottom right-hand corner.
Leave. Yeah. Okay.
And then just come